So this week I've been a little bit sick. Been trying to get to the barn, but I've had a couple of things I needed to take care of. We've had a push on the farm. We're supposed to have some snow tomorrow. Just what it is. I got a call from a friend. He had already talked to me about doing the job, and I told him I didn't have time, but then he called me to check the pricing and see if that was crazy or not, and I told him that I couldn't just in good conscience sit back and let him get taken advantage of. So just came up here a couple of days in a row to get it spread out and pushed out for him. We can get the rain and moisture on this road base, and then I can come back over here with my compaction roller, pack it down real nice and tight for him, finish it up. This time of year, it feels like we all have to balance our books on our project list versus Mother Nature's timeline to see how it's going to play out. He's been trying to get this road and building up for almost 2 years now. We started this road by putting 3-inch steel meal slag on top of the bare soil, and it's had 2 years worth of driving in and packing into the mud and the dirt. This initial layer acts as a ballast layer to keep from sinking away deeper and deeper if the ground becomes saturated. Now we're going to cover this with several inches of road base to build up and shape the road appropriately and give a really nice finished layer. After some discussion, we decided how many loads of each type of material he was going to need for this project. Ultimately, we ended up with 2 loads of 1.5-inch rock to go inside the building and somewhere around 12 to 14 truckloads of road base to cap and shape this road. As dry and hot as it's been up here, even the road base coming from the gravel yard is lacking enough moisture to get a really good compaction. That's why it's become a push to get it distributed and spread out. The rain that's coming this weekend should make it wet enough to get a really good compaction. This mill slag that I'm scraping up is from the steel mill. It's the dross that they scrape off the top of the molten steel when they pour it into the iron bars. After it cools, they break it up into smaller chunks and sell it as aggregate. They don't charge very much for it, and it's extremely heavy. Normal rock and aggregate weighs somewhere around 2,200 to 2,600 pounds per yard, and this steel mill slag weighs closer to 3,200 to 3,400 pounds per cubic yard. This slag looks like a sponge if it were made out of iron, very similar to lava rock. It's very porous and a lot of jagged holes and things like that in it. Between the shape and the weight, it makes an incredible ballast. This excavator probably isn't the most ideal tool for this type of job, but it's very effective and does the job very well. I'm just using the back side of my bucket to press and scrape along the ground to just uproot any of the small little bit of vegetation that's there. The ground's already been prepared a year or two ago and had the ballast put in, so I don't want to disturb all that. I just want to take off this small growth that's come in since then. We'd asked the delivery driver to set the chains on the tailgate of his truck and drag the material out as he dumped it. He told me he'd never done that and wasn't sure how, but he was willing to try. That attempt didn't go very well, so we just had him dump it into piles. It made it a little bit longer for me to move it around, but much safer in the long run. Underneath this lean-to, we didn't have any ballast put in. We dug the pad for this shop a little over a year ago, and that was dug at that point. So we had the driver bring us a load of pit run for that section, and I pushed that out and spread it and packed it in with the excavator already. Pit run tends to have anywhere up to 4, 5, 6 inch cobble mixed in the material as it comes straight out of the pit with no sorting. I'm working pretty delicately underneath here, as the ceiling height under here is almost the same length as my stick length on the boom. So that means that every time I pull the bucket forward like that, the knuckle up above is within a foot of the ceiling. That's one reason why I set the bucket down like that into the material and drive backwards to drag it out rather than moving the bucket to move the material. Now that the upper portion's done, I can come down into the main approach portion of the driveway and start moving the material around to shape this driveway the way that it needs to for the watershed. Everest had his last football game of the season this day. That meant that we had to leave early to be there on time, and I didn't have a lot of time to spread between projects. So I had Ola drop me off and asked her to come pick me up after 2 hours. That way I'd get as far as I could here and then have some time to spend up around the barn pad. I needed to get this stack of lumber loaded up and moved out of the way so that I have a clear path to push off all of the loose dirt from the hillside. Since I only had a couple of hours to work today, it didn't make a lot of sense to drag out all my tools and get things framing. It made more sense to get the rest of this loose dirt that I've already broken up with my excavator and get it out of the way to clear the building site for when I start sanding the posts on this other side. I often talk about buying equipment through auctions and some of the trips that we've taken to the auctions to pick up equipment that we've purchased. This little tractor happens to be one of the first items I ever purchased on the auctions. I bought it the summer we purchased this property, and this is the tractor that I used to spread the first few loads of gravel on the first roads that we cut into this place. I purchased it for a fair price with a cracked engine block. I bought a used engine block, rebuilt the engine, put it together, and started using it. I pretty much use it just about every day. It's only a 45 horsepower tractor, but it sure is a workhorse. All I'm trying to do here is get rid of the loose material that I've already dug out and make room around these post bases so that I don't have to get in that close to the building. We got home fairly late from the football game. So while everybody else was taking a little bit of time to get breakfast and get moving, I got out of there early to get started moving some of the dirt around here. After they had breakfast, they were going to go do the farm chore rounds, checking on the animals and feeding everybody and making sure everything else was fine. I wanted to try to get up here and have another hour or so to finish getting the rest of this material spread. That way it was done and everything was ready so that when the storms come in, it can be ready to receive the moisture. I pretty much only have that last pile of material to get distributed. So now I gotta take this little bit of vegetation that regrew, scrape it out of the way, and finish pulling that pile up. On some of these corners here, we've kind of exaggerated the corner a little bit and made them a little bit more blown out. He has every intention of coming in and out of here with trailers and parking them, and the last thing you want to have is corners that are too tight to be able to maneuver the front of the truck and the trailer to get everything positioned appropriately. With the last pile of this road base finally spread out with the excavator and distributed, I bladed out with the excavator to get it roughly close and roughly smooth, as it tracks pretty straight and flat. Once that's all set, then I change over to the tractor and I use the bucket. I set it down with pressure and a slight angle so that it presses and glides off of the dirt. This is called back dragging, and it usually helps to set the material a little tighter and help kind of compact it initially. Across the road, we've got a little bit of a slope that direction, and that's because everything's moving that way. The thing I don't want him to have is have any moisture on this road surface channel and run right down this road and wash out the center of the road. It doesn't do well with a crown, because if it sheds to both directions, then the water coming to the left side of this road is going to come down, and as it gets to the gate, it's going to have to cross anyway. So everything that's going over there is going to channel, and it's going to cut a rut through it also. So rather than doing that, we've got a slight slope to the right. So anything that's on this surface, it should kind of channel and move to the right-hand side that won't have to cross his road again. That should help keep it from crossing off. And then along the left side of the road, it's built up enough, we've got kind of a berm there anyway. So anything in the grass and the trees that's melting in the springtime and things like that should kind of follow along that berm and give it time to soak in the natural soil versus having it cross the road and cut a rut. Should make quite a road.